I'm Ben Mankiewicz. Welcome to TCM, where we're in the middle of a night of movies that impacted the culture in significant ways. Joining me, producer and screenwriter Larry Karaszewski. Larry, thanks for being here. Appreciate it.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited to watch these movies with you.
The film we have coming up next is from 1946, winner of the Oscar for Best Picture, The Best Years of Our Lives, from Sam Goldwyn Pictures and directed by William Wyler. Cast led by the three actors playing returning servicemen after World War II and the challenges they face adjusting to life at home: Frederick March, Dana Andrews, and Harold Russell. So, Larry, first, I won't put anything into your head. What stands out to you most about this screenplay?
I mean, for me, it's every single thing. To me, this is really, it sounds silly to say that, it is one of the best films ever made because it dealt so realistically and so honestly with the issues facing returning soldiers and their families. I mean, it wasn't called PTSD back then, but it deals with that. It deals with alcoholism. It deals with changing gender roles. It deals with class issues. Frederick March and Dana Andrews are from very different class strata, and it deals with and disability issues. And it doesn't do it in a heavy-handed way. I think people saw this movie, and maybe for the first time, they saw themselves on the screen, and I think that's why this is such an important movie.
To that class issue is such a good moment. It must be, 10 or 15 minutes into the movie when the three guys are riding back in the taxi and they arrive at Frederick March's place. And Dana Andrews realizes that March, this sergeant, lives in a really impressive address.
Some barracks you got here. Hey, what are you, a retired bootlegger?
March says, "How much do I owe you?" And Andrews, who clearly isn't close to as wealthy as March, says, "Hey, you're outranked here." The hierarchy of the service still takes precedent for these guys, probably for the last time in that moment, where he won't let Frederick March pay, because you can't let a sergeant pay.
Right. No, it's funny. There's a scene later in the film where Dana Andrews goes to a airplane graveyard, and it's nothing but like all the airplanes that were so important to fight the war now mean nothing. Now are just discarded junk. And as Dana Andrews walks around, he realizes that he's in that same position. He was important during the war. Now he's working as a soda jerk. It's one of those great moments in a great film where just everything clicks. The photography by Greg Toland, this beautiful, gigantic location, and this Dana Andrews, it's like theme and picture match perfectly. It's an extraordinary sequence.
Yeah, and as I rewatched it recently, in preparation for talking to you, I didn't realize that we got a little taste of those airplanes in that opening 10-minute sequence where the guys fly back together as they land. We see the graveyard right from the nose of the plane carrying these guys into town. And as a screenwriter, I want to ask you about that opening sequence. I love that opening sequence because within whatever it is, 10, 12 minutes, man, Robert Sherwood, who wrote the screenplay, makes us care so deeply about all three of them. I mean, we are fully invested in each guy, and it's so quick. You care so much, so fast.
Yeah, and it's the moment before they reach their lives again. So in a sense, they have this thing where you're seeing them in the war. You're seeing their last moments of being a part of the U.S. military. And so, because once they hit the ground, their whole lives are going to change again completely. And that's the beauty of this movie, is that it changes in ways they're not prepared to go back to real life. In fact, even when one of them gets to their house, they're like, "Hey, let's go out and get a drink." They don't, as much as they miss their family and want to go back, they know that it's just not quite going to fit in the way they used to.
Yeah, they stared down the Nazis, but they're terrified of greeting their wives.
You asked me earlier what was my favorite scenes in this movie. To me, I think Frederick March walking into his house may be one of the greatest scenes in the history of cinema. That where he walks in, and Myrna Loy's, I think she's in the kitchen or something, she hears something, she walks into this hallway, and it's this long, beautiful shot from Toland. And I think it's actually based on William Wyler's actual house. When William Wyler came home, he had this long hallway in his house, and the first time he saw his wife was at the end of this hallway. I'm probably going to cry even just talking about this scene, because it's just really an extraordinarily emotional moment.
That's right, yeah. Larry, thanks very much.
Yeah, thank you. What a powerful film.
From 1946, also with Myrna Loy, as we mentioned, plus Teresa Wright, Kathy O'Donnell, Virginia Mayo, and Hoagy Carmichael. This is The Best Years of Our Lives. Welcome back. Ben Mankiewicz, joined once again by screenwriter and producer Larry Karaszewski. Larry, thanks for being here.
And thanks for having me.
So the important cultural issue that gets tackled in the film, in the big picture, it's the adjustment that returning soldiers, seamen, airmen, and Marines face as they try to reacclimate to the home front. But more specifically is PTSD, right? Which I guess considered veterans' problems at the time, or shell shock, right? There's these pejorative names that now we know is a very serious psychological issue, which is almost impossible to avoid if you see significant combat. And here it is, 1946, the year after the war, dealing with it head on. That was nothing short of bold for 1946.
Incredibly bold, and it's still incredibly bold today. I mean, it's like the American films are so full of propaganda and so much about like how you couldn't criticize the war in any way whatsoever, and they're not criticizing the war, but they're really showing you how different these men were when they returned. And of course, Harold Russell, more than anyone else, Harold Russell, who has this disability, he's so great in this film. I think he's the only person ever to win 2 Academy Awards for the same performance. He was nominated for Best Supporting Actor, and I think the Academy didn't think he was going to win, so they wanted to honor him by giving him an honorary award, so he got that award, and then he wound up taking home the real award. But it's an extraordinary performance, because he's the real deal. Harold Russell just is. His mere presence being there. In fact, there's a little bit of I don't know whether it's a legend or not, but when Wyler cast Harold Russell, and a couple months went by before production began, and Harold Russell went out and got acting lessons. And he came back, and he was like, the first couple, he was acting. And William Wyler said, like, oh no, I didn't hire you to act. I hired you to be, just be yourself in this movie. And that's what makes it so effective, so effective.
Yeah, and Wyler considered Russell's performance here just about the best performance he'd ever seen in one of his movies. And the fact that Wyler was a veteran and was very much in harm's way, making documentary propaganda films during the war, had to play a role in his ability to elicit such great performances, especially from Andrews, a very solid actor, and Russell. This is their best work, right? Russell, it's basically his only work, but I think from Andrews too. Only, Frederick March knew what he was doing.
Yeah, Frederick March and Myrna Loy are always great, no matter what. And Teresa Wright as well. She's extraordinary in this film. Wyler might be the only guy who get both sides correct. He understood the serviceman, and he could really nail what they were going through. He understood the home front as well. I mean, he won the Oscar for Mrs. Miniver. The only movie I can think that's sort of like this is The Deer Hunter, in terms of scope, in terms of people watching a movie after a war and feeling like, oh my God, this is telling a story about what happened to us. I think, Best Years of Our Lives is a little bit more, is almost stronger, because it deals simply almost exclusively with the home front.
All right, Larry, great stuff. Thanks very much. Great to talk to you.
Thank you. Thanks for showing such great films. I love TCM.
Well, we love having you on, and so much so that you're back next week with a couple of more films that had a significant impact on the culture. So I look forward to seeing you then.
Great. Can't wait.
All right, stay with us, because here on TCM, the movies continue, and as always, they are uncut and commercial-free.